Welcome to the University of Michigan School of Information. My name is Amy Homkes-Hayes, Assistant Director of Academic Program Development and MADS team member. We are very eager to be with you today to spend about the next hour or so answering all of your questions about our career development and services offerings as a Master's of Applied Data Science student. So before we begin, I'm going to go ahead and let my esteemed colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm happy to be here with you all today. I'm Joanna Kroll, the Director of the Career Development Office.
Hi everyone, I'm Dunn, Assistant Director of Career Development.
Excellent. So for those of you that have joined us before, my face may look familiar, and so let me run you through a few of the things that I like to say at the beginning of every one of our webinars. So for starters, I'm the one that's going to be fielding questions today. So if you have questions, which we really hope you do, you can go ahead and populate the live chat in our YouTube event with those questions, and I'll make sure that Joanna and Katie have access to and can answer the questions that you offer. So as you can imagine, we can take any question today that's MADS related, but specifically we're invested in spending this hour together talking about how we're going to prepare MADS students for meaningful careers in data science. The other thing that I should mention is that I have my phone here with me, and that's only because this is how I access your questions. So if I'm looking down at various points of the event, that is why, for example. And then I should also add that at about the 45-minute mark, we will move from having an exclusive webinar access for our conditionally admitted folks. So all of the people joining us right now are folks that have been conditionally admitted to the MADS program. Welcome, super excited to have you. And at about the 12:45 mark or so, I will take a pause and then we will invite additional webinar participants to join us. And that's anyone that's really expressed an interest in our program. So to go ahead and get started, I was hoping that both of you could talk a little bit more about what the Career Development Office is in the School of Information.
So I'll start. Okay. So as Director of the Career Development Office, we are a professional, customized career development office that offers comprehensive career development services for all UMSI students. We're very excited to offer those same services to our MADS students. And Katie can go into more specifics.
Yeah. And so in my role, I'll actually be serving as your personal career coach for all MADS students. And so some of the services, that you might be able to expect when you're working with our office, of course, would be resume preparation and really making sure everything is tailored for data science, as well as what your specific career goal is, whether that's advancement or an internship or that first job in data science. We'll also be doing network strategies, and so there is a huge network of U of M alumni that are out there in the world, and so we will provide strategies and coaching on how you can leverage that and connect with them, as well as other data science professionals. Of course, negotiation strategies when it comes to salary, interview preparation, and just overall planning for your job or internship search. And so I'll be working with MADS students one-on-one, and you can expect to have that individualized strategic career planning resource so that you can ensure that you'll be reaching the goals that you have by attending and participating in the MADS program.
And I just wanted to add a little to that, and I think what makes our office unique and offers something, I'd say, truly customized to our students is having the designated career coach. And Katie has years of experience doing career counseling and advising for students. And so you're going to get that expert level professional help. And for those of you out there that might have a lot of work experience, you might think, I don't really need that. And maybe you don't, but know that someone is here to help you start to make sense of your experience as a MADS student, what you're learning, curricular-wise, academically, and tying it into your career goal. Again, as Katie said, if you're looking for career advancement, if you're making a shift in your career, or you're brand new to the data science career field.
Excellent. So one of the things that I'm hearing you say that I think is really important when we think about who's going to be joining us in the MADS program is that we'll have a really interesting mix of folks that are just starting their data science careers and folks that have actually already been working in the data science field or are pivoting to a data science job but have years of professional experience. Can you both tell me a little bit more about how CDO thinks about and acts on working with students who have different levels of professional experience?
Just to start, and we'll probably just continue to play off of each other. So our team, our career development team, we are highly experienced professional career practitioners. And so we understand that every student in our program is a unique individual, and you're coming in with different strengths, and sort of developmentally everyone's at a different maybe phase in their career paths, and so we look at each person individually. So if it's someone coming in with 15 years experience that might not be directly related to data science, and you're making a shift, and that's why you're going into this program, we can help you make sense of what those experiences are and how it can translate to this new sort of career path that you're thinking of. Or if you're coming into the program with absolutely no experience whatsoever, we can help you think about the things that you've done in your life as a student, as a professional, as a person, that can, again, help translate into a data science career path and help you be successful in the job market.
Yeah, I would just say being comfortable in telling your story will be a huge part of what I'd like to work with students on, because that will help in articulating what strengths you have, what experiences you have when you are talking to employers. And so it really is that individualized approach in recognizing that everyone has different experiences, different background, different strengths. And we want to work with you to really figure out for yourself what that could look like when you're talking to employers.
And that was really our plan with coming up with this level of service, of having a designated career coach for you all, so that you have someone that can work, again, that one-on-one with you to really understand your uniqueness, your unique career goals, and the things that you need to succeed and progress in your career.
So as you know, because this is an online program, we anticipate that most of our students are not local, and so consequently may need different ways of accessing the CDO and their career coach, for instance.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what you have planned or how students can engage the offerings that the CDO has?
And so we do plan to do virtual advising, and so that would be a primary way that I would be connecting with you all, would be through scheduled coaching appointments that we would conduct primarily through Zoom as a platform. But also all MADS students will have full access to the digital resources that we have. And so we do have a system called iTrack, which is our portal really to employer contacts, job and internship postings, different resources that might be available to UMSI students. MADS students will have full access to that, as well as our Canvas career resource site, which will be another place where you will have full access to the resources we've created as an office to support students. So whether that might be guidebooks about resume development or handouts, workshop slides, all of that you will have full access to.
And just to add to that, through iTrack, which is our primary system for the Career Development Office to work with all of our students, you'll have access to do virtual mock interviews. So if you need interview preparation, our mock interview program it's virtual, and so you'll have access to that as well. And just being a cutting edge, highly tech school, it's technology. We're going to be using technology in easy ways so that you can feel like you're getting this really direct service. And you are getting this direct service. It's just in a virtual space.
That's excellent. So it sounds like you've really thought about how to reach MADS students, knowing that, again, for most of them, they may not be geographically close and able to participate in person. However, if they are close by, what might it look like if somebody is living in or near Ann Arbor and wanted to seek you out that way, for example?
I think to get started, we would be doing virtual advising for all MADS students, but I would say our office tends to be very reflective of how things are going, and so we would need to determine if that's working or not, and if changes might be made to that model in the future. But there are some things that would be available for students that might be local. I think a key event to be aware of is the UMSI Career Fair, and that happens every January. We would be inviting all MADS students to participate in the Career Fair, but we also recognize that many of you might not be local to actually make that feasible, and so we will be making employer contact information available to all students, as well as participation in a resume book, so that you're also able to have your resume there in front of all the employers that will be recruiting UMSI students.
Yeah, so just to add to that, all MADS students will have access to our employers. So we have thousands of employers that are in our iTrack system, our database, for job postings and employer engagement. And so you'll have access to thousands of employers that way, but additionally, any of these employer events, like our career fair, if you're not local, we're going to share contact information with you of recruiters, the employers that come, alumni that come. Again, they'll have direct access to your resumes because you'll be included in the resume books that are shared with all the employers. And the great thing is you don't have to stand in those big, long, boring lines and have 30 seconds to really stand out to an employer. You can do it in other ways that are actually much more effective.
I appreciate that, hearing that. And in fact, I would say as an interesting anecdote, last year's career fair, the CDO pivoted quite quickly, in fact, in light of a polar vortex that ended up canceling the event.
Right.
So consequently, what I'm here to say is that you have this awesome opportunity to kind of think about what does it mean for employers to reach students if our conventional means of doing it isn't available.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it might be because you live in a different country or area of the United States, and sometimes it might be Michigan weather.
Right.
So
That forces us to cancel.
That's right. That students don't have to worry about.
So what I can say when those things happen is that when we look at our data and our outcomes, our students still get fantastic jobs, and they're getting jobs, and they're very successful in that way. And so if a career fair happens to not be able to happen in the traditional way, students are still getting jobs, and they still have the resources and the contacts and the guidance that they need to ensure they're going to be successful reaching their career goals.
That's fantastic. So I have some questions that have come in. Thank you so much for asking questions. And I see some familiar names here too, which is really fantastic for me because having done so many of these, I feel like I'm getting to know people already. So let's go ahead and go through some of these questions because they're good ones. So here's one that's a bit more specific, but I certainly think an interest area that many MADS students will have. And so one person is wondering if you could talk a little bit more about our opportunities, both specifically with UMich sports teams in analytics, sports analytics, but then maybe more generally, how we might support students that are interested in working at the intersection of sports and data.
And so I know that some of the teams here on campus have had opportunities for students to work with them. I'm not sure if that would necessarily play out in the same way for MADS students. But I do know data positions are huge with all professional sports and college teams right now. And so I do think if that were your specific career interest, we could work to develop a plan for how you might be able to achieve that. So whether that is by doing some type of outreach to specific teams that you might be interested in working with, or professionals that already have a data role with a team that you'd be interested in, I think there would be a lot of ways that you'd be able to go about pursuing that as a career goal, no matter where you are and what might be possible around you.
And the other thing I wanted to share is that this is a growing demand in industry in the sports field. I mean, it's all about the data now, and so the opportunities are there. And we have really strong connections with Nike, with NFL.com, NBA. We've had not sports teams, but athletic, like Fitbit, Garmin, all those types of companies. That we have those connections already, and we can help you make those connections. And that's a key goal of our office. Is we sort of want to create this easy, low-hanging fruit for you all to grab onto, engage with employers. And so know that we have a lot of these connections already. And yes, being a University of Michigan student, you're going to have access to. It could be project work. It could be maybe a potential internship with one of the sports teams here at the University of Michigan, and that happens. So I think there's opportunities, and being a University of Michigan student just opens up more of those opportunities for you.
I appreciate you saying that, and specifically calling out internships and the important role that they may play in supporting someone's career development and enabling them to kind of put themselves on a trajectory towards a career path. So can you talk a little bit in more depth about what internship opportunities might look like for some of our MADS students?
And so a lot of the employers that we work with are offering data science internships where they are seeking current students that would be able to work with them typically over the summer to be able to do some work with them. And so some of our top employers, that are looking to recruit math students or data-oriented students really are some of the top tech companies that you might or certainly are familiar with, like Google, Facebook, IBM, Amazon, LinkedIn. We also have strong partnerships with Boeing, SAP, Microsoft, Accenture. There are many more. Those are just a few, but those are the types of companies that are currently seeking data science interns and full-time employees as well to continue to work with their teams.
This is, I would say, the most in-demand career field that we're seeing right now in industry when we work with employers. So our office, again, like I said, we work with many, many employers closely, and we do employer development trips around the country every year. And when we're out there talking to employers about our students and their skills and what they can do, they are thrilled when we're talking about our new MADS program, because these are the skills they're really having a hard time finding out there and are having a tough time recruiting students, candidates, people with this experience. So internships are key, and so you'll get that advising and you'll get that guidance from Katie as well in your one-to-ones. And we have internship postings in iTrack all the time. The demand definitely is there. If you are someone that is thinking, I need to build a little bit more practical hands-on experience, I'm going to do an internship and I can do it and I can fit it into my schedule, it can happen. We can help guide you to make that happen as well.
That's wonderful to hear. And one of the things that some of our conditionally admitted students are interested in knowing is when those internships may happen. Okay, so can you talk a little bit more about when students may opt to participate in an internship?
And so the internship timeline, I would say primarily they do take place over summer still, and so sometime within that May to June all the way through August timeframe. For the searching process, we see employers that we partner with are more heavily recruiting interns during the winter term, and so starting in January. I would say when I've been looking at some of the data about our internship postings in our iTrack system, some of the large companies had things posted starting in November and then continuing that recruitment through February, sometimes even into March, depending on the size of the company. And so you have some time to get started with the MADS program and then determine whether or not you're feeling inclined to pursue an internship. And you would have ample time then to start that process of applying November, December, then into January, February, to see what opportunities you might be able to pursue if a summer internship were something that you really wanted to participate in. I know some companies do offer internships at other points in the year, but it tends to be that the majority of that recruitment is really placed around summer internships specifically.
And also to think about your time management and your planning around the search process. We know for our students, the average search for an internship is 3 months. That's pretty much
3 to 4.
3 to 4 months is pretty much the average, from actively sending out applications to going through interviews, going through the whole recruiting process, and accepting an internship. So just think about that when you're planning for if you wanted to do a summer internship.
That's excellent. Internships, when we talk about them, we often mean within the United States. We certainly could mean abroad as well. We have many folks that you know will be joining us who already live overseas or are coming from participating in MADS as an international student, for example. We also have folks that may be joining us in the United States but have long-term goals to move out of the United States. And so could you talk a little bit about what it means for CDO to kind of conceptualize and act on this idea of global job searches?
And so, you know, we do have experience working with international students as well as students that would like to work abroad. And so there is that foundational knowledge across our team in helping students navigate that process. I would say I am not an expert on what the job or internship search might look like in every country, because I know there are a lot of variances to that. However, we do have access to some specific resources and databases that are specifically created to help with that process. And so the University of Michigan has a subscription to a site called Going Global, which is a great resource for finding jobs or internships in different countries for those of you that might be living abroad or those of you that might want to go abroad. And it will include that specific information. For those of you that might be looking for, potentially working in the US in the future, there's also an H-1B database on that website that could potentially help you target companies that do provide sponsorship to international job candidates.
Yes, we have access to all of those resources, as you will as well, but also we have access to a lot of experts on campus working in this space. And so making those, we partner with them a lot through our International Center that can really provide even greater depth around international experiences. One thing I did want to point out, for those of you that might be living and you're already working out of the country, or you're living outside of the country and you will be an international student and you're going to stay in your home country, and you might want to think about like building an internship opportunity maybe within the organization you're already in. We can help you in how to navigate that and how to talk about that and how to work with your employer or your company to help develop something outside of the scope that you're already doing that could align better with what you're studying in the MADS curriculum. So that can happen as well.
That's a really astute point, because in fact some of our conditionally admitted folks and even now matriculated folks in fact have been indicating to us very positively that their employer is actually helping fund their MADS experience, or is in support of their MADS experience as it relates to their career directory within an organization. So we've been talking a lot about career development as it relates to internship and job opportunities. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about professional development. So if I'm a MADS student, for example, who intends to stay within my organization, how might you help me navigate that process, for instance?
And so I would say it depends on what your specific goals are and what that plan could look like. I think some of that coaching can be around having those conversations with your employer to really lay out what your goals are for your career and what might be possible within the organization, but also seeking out different professional networking opportunities to continue to meet folks at the organization or at similar organizations to see if there might be roles available there. I'm trying to think of other things.
I think part of the coaching, part of that is, again, it's going to be very customized to your own unique goals, but part of that is going to be about learning how to tell your story. So your story is starting to shift now as a MADS student. So how do you start to articulate this? How do you start to articulate the skills and your strengths that you're developing in the curriculum to, whether it's your current employer, to think about a different sort of role within the organization or outside of that. And so, through, resume consultations and development and interview preparation and negotiation strategies, and just, again, learning how to tell your story, that's what your coaching is really going to provide for you all individually.
That's excellent to hear, because one of the things that I've observed in my time partnering with the CDO is that you think about career and professional development really holistically. And so for those folks that are very clear about their trajectory within the MADS program, you can aid them in reaching that very clear objective. For those that are less clear, you have an opportunity to have more exploratory conversations. For those that are going to be starting data science careers, you can aid them in what that means. And for those folks that are using this degree within their current organization, you have an opportunity to talk to them about how do you strategize with your supervisor about what your expectations are after you finish this degree and you have this set of skills and this credential. So what does that mean then for the new, the promotion or the title change or the salary increase or whatever it might be, or the work, of course, changing itself now that you have these new skills.
A core to our mission in working with students is to educate, empower, and engage. And meaning we want you to learn how to advocate for yourself. And so whether it's learning some negotiation strategies and how to either negotiate for a higher salary once you have this degree or this new skill set, or it's negotiating a new role within the organization, or just negotiating just for what your worth is in terms of salary and opportunities and advancement.
Excellent. So one of the things that we're observing is the world of work is changing. And so, for example, the number of some people say, for example, we live in a gig economy where people are kind of picking up interesting opportunities here and there and making sense of them, doing consulting, working remotely, for instance. All of these are trends that we're observing increasing over time. Can you talk a little bit about what you're observing in the traditional kind of university recruitment around things like remote work opportunities?
Do you want to maybe talk about internships?
Yeah, so I would say with internships specifically, most of them still prefer in-person internships, but we are seeing an increase in the other master's programs here at UMSI and students having remote opportunities for virtual internships. And so if that were the case for any of you where you would be seeking that out, know that sometimes is possible for internships. And I would say that's sometimes something that can be discussed with the employer depending on what your situation is and what your availability might be, where that would be, again, through coaching, another thing that we could discuss and how you could have those conversations with employers if that were something you were truly interested in.
Yeah, I mean, we know that that's the trend in industry is remote work, and and so for us, like, we work with these employers that are open to that as well. And a lot of employers for full-time jobs, I mean, they'll offer remote opportunities as well, maybe fully or partially. And then there's also, you mentioned, these sort of gig opportunities and shorter term, like contractual work. And we're seeing that as a big trend with employers, particularly in the tech space. And so there are those opportunities. If you, again, might not be an internship, but it's a 3-month contract to work with a particular client or company, those opportunities are out there. And it's hard for companies to find talent to fill those positions. So there is, again, I think a demand more for the gig, the remote work. I think it's sort of 50-50. Internships, again, employers are open to it, but many of them also prefer that on-site experience for internships to provide you with the mentoring and guidance that you would need as a student, because internships are learning experiences. You should not be going in as the expert. And so sometimes we see if it's fully remote, 100%, some of that gets missed, that learning that you should be getting.
So that makes a lot of sense to me, that the way that employers conceptualize internships may make them less likely to do them fully remote. Knowing that, in fact, they want people to be kind of embedded within the organization, and that we're still adopting the technology that enables us to do that well for somebody that's not in person. But at the same time, that there are opportunities for MADS students to practice their data science skills in a number of different ways. Internships, of course, being one critical one, but not the only one. And I think that's important to note.
Can I chime in a little bit more on that with the remote? Because if your interest is working with a company and the only way you could do that is remotely, again, through coaching and all of our years of experience, we've managed our internship program for years and years and years. And so we've really built in a lot of structure into that, and we can help you navigate, it's critical to ensure that everyone's on the same page with objectives and goals and supervisory expectations. So we can really help you navigate that part of it. So if you're coming into it and it has to be remote, you can assure an employer to say, I'll put together the work plan, our goals, I'll make sure our schedule is in place, so it doesn't feel like an extra burden for the employer. And so again, this is just another way of coaching that we can provide to you all.
That's great. So one of the things that one or more of our students have asked about is around who internships are for. So when we think about internships in their most conventional sense, we may think about them for more new professionals or folks that have very limited professional experience. But for a number of our MADS students, we know that they'll have years of professional experience, but again, are transitioning into a data science career. So how do employers view those folks, people that have 5 to 7+ years of work experience and are looking for internships in this new field that they're going to stake a claim in and eventually get a job in?
I mean, in my experience, that can be a benefit if you are seeking a traditional internship, where an employer is going to value the maturity, the experience, the level of professionalism that you'll be able to bring to an organization. I oftentimes find with the other master's students, those that might be making a career change, they're able to hit the ground running in a different way than someone that might be brand new to the profession. And so thinking about ways that you can leverage that background, and sometimes, depending on where you're currently working, it can be an easy or an interesting combination of skill set and experience if you're combining the current industry you work with, but now focusing more so on data, where you would still have a lot of value to bring to an organization as an intern that they would really appreciate. But I would also say for those of you that might be interested in working and doing maybe an internship, but it doesn't have to be a traditional internship. Maybe it would look more like a project where you're working with an organization on something that's shorter term, maybe not quite as many hours a week because you might have a full-time job that you're also focusing on. But it could be something where it's giving you that additional data experience to add to your materials and be able to talk about without it being, a 3-month commitment to a full-time internship.
And I would say, just to echo what Katie has said, employers value experience.
Mm-hmm.
They value maturity and professionalism. So if you have that to share, you need to make sure you're marketing that well in your resume and your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, and all of that. And again, Katie will, her coaching will help you with all of that as well. But it's, a lot of, in data science right now, employers really are looking for master's level or higher candidates. So they expect to see some work experience. So that can be to your advantage if you have it. If you don't have it, again, there's entry level data science internships and opportunities for that. Again, it's in high demand as well. So think about what are those unique strengths, and if that's years of experience, that is incredibly valuable.
What advice would you give folks that are entering the data science field? What additional advice would you give them about ways in which to immerse themselves in the field? So how do you coach somebody that comes to you and says, I'm new to this and I'm already a professional, but this is a totally new field for me. I know no one. I'm not really sure, what the landscape is. What are some of the strategies that you would encourage them to participate in?
And so my key thing is get connected. And so that could mean that you go to something like meetup.com and you look for the data science meetups that are happening in your area. That will be a way to connect with other data science professionals that are nearby, and that's just one way to do that. You can also look for the professional associations, the chapters that might be regional to you, where you might be able to start to engage with other members, join their listserv, start to potentially consider attending meetings or conferences if they seem relevant or interesting to you, joining other listservs that are data-oriented, joining groups on LinkedIn that are data-oriented. I find that those can be a great way to start to see what are the conversations happening within the profession, what are some of the key issues facing the profession, and who are the people contributing to that conversation, because they might be the ones that you make a specific focus on trying to connect with and engage with, because as you start to meet other professionals, it will be important to do what we would call an informational interview, where you're able to learn from them and their career path, where you can really take that opportunity one-on-one to ask them about the trends they're seeing, insights into data science, advice they would have for someone that's starting a master's program. It can be incredibly beneficial to talk to others and learn from their career path. And then that can hopefully be a way that you're developing mentorship from another professional as well as you continue in this path towards data science.
Yeah, and again, echoing everything Katie is saying, and you'll hear it from Katie over and over, networking is critical to job search success. And I know many people cringe the thought of that, but it really is important. And for those, when you're just starting out, and you're like, okay, I want to start immersing myself, but not ready to fully do that, the LinkedIn makes it super easy. Start joining some of those groups, like Katie said. You can just sit back and see what the conversations are, the articles, who are the influencers, and then you could, once you feel comfortable, you could start contributing to those discussions and post something on LinkedIn. And so that makes it really easy to just start that networking. But it is the #1 way to get a job, and so you'll hear it over and over from us. that networking is key. So start doing it now. It's good practice.
So we talk about networks. One of the things that is true of the University of Michigan is that we have a very large network of alumni. Can you talk a little bit about how CDO works with alumni and the role that they may play in supporting some of our MADS students as they engage their trajectory throughout the program and beyond?
Do you want to talk broadly about?
Yeah, so I would say we do have, a good-sized network of UMSI alumni that you would be able to connect with through LinkedIn. We also have a platform called UCAN, which is the University Career Alumni Network that MADS students will have access to join, where that provides a very specific platform to connect with alumni. And it doesn't mean that you're limited to just SI alumni. You'd be able to search by geographic area, industry, company, to find U of M alumni abroad that might match those interests, where you'd be able to connect with them and discuss career topics. I would say those are some of the broad ways that you would be able to connect with alumni. In coaching also, oftentimes that comes up where there might be someone specific that I would then recommend reaching out to or trying to help facilitate some type of connection if it makes sense. So those are some of the ways that I would typically promote engaging with alumni.
But are you asking as alumni?
No, I'm asking both. It could be, but mostly I was wondering how the CDO encourages UMSI students to connect to UMSI.
Okay, sorry.
UMSI alumni specifically in
gotcha.
general.
Okay.
But U of M alumni. Yeah.
We
What does happen though when someone becomes a UMSI alum? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, so they have access, continued access to iTrack and our resources for a lifetime. So yeah, you still get support even as an alum. But I wanted to maybe mention the University of Michigan Alumni Association offers, they do regional events throughout the year, and as a U of M student you would have access to attend those, and so some of those we'll be promoting those and letting you all know about those happening, and if they're around where you are, you can go and engage with alumni in person that way.
I really like that point because one of our students inquired about getting to know other people in their geographic region. And so you can know that that's one of the things that we've been talking a lot about in UMSI generally and specifically within the MADS program, and that is how do we help MADS students meet one another if they are geographically close and want to opt into doing that? How do we help them meet UMSI or U of M alumni that live in those areas? And as you can imagine, we have some concentrated areas where there's lots of University of Michigan alumni. So some of your most popular places to work, so for example, Silicon Valley, the tri-state area, so New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Chicago, of course, throughout Texas, some representation in Atlanta, Miami. So really, University of Michigan alumni are everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I'm hearing you say that UMSI alumni are also everywhere and typically very willing to engage UMSI students.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's great.
Katie was just in Seoul, actually, visiting some of our students who are actually interning abroad in Seoul, and she runs into alumni there as well. You'll just hear them shouting out, "Go Blue," all over the world. So it's exciting. They're everywhere. So opportunities are there. One thing I would say is if you're working in an organization right now, you can ask your HR folks to say, hey, I'm going into this program. I'd like to engage with other U of M alumni who work in the organization, and can I get a list of some of those that are, and I want to make a connection. You can ask that and see if they would help you make a connection, because that's another easy way. If the big company, I can guarantee there's University of Michigan alumni there.
That's great. That's a great idea.
And maybe other UMSI alumni as well.
Right. No, that's a really good point. So as you can imagine, most of our MADS students are on a trajectory to obtaining positions in data science after completing the master's degree. That said, we have a few people that are interested in potentially going on to get a PhD, and so they're interested in both doing research as a MADS student, and then of course they're also wondering about what are the implications for, or what can the CDO do if in fact I wanted to continue my education and move in the direction of getting a PhD in data science, for example. Can you speak a little bit to how you work with folks that are interested in pursuing PhD level study, or how you work with PhD students?
Yeah, so I do coaching for our PhD students, so I work with them a lot. But for master students that are considering going into a PhD program, we help against, you might be developing more of a CV versus a resume, and we help with that, those understanding some of those differences and how you can shift a resume into a CV. And we can help you again through coaching to think about research opportunities, research projects that you could get involved in to start to develop that research experience and those skills. And we can also help you in some of that application. We don't do a great deal of that in terms of helping support fully the application, but in terms of your CV and thinking about your personal statement and your essay, we'll review those and give feedback on those as well.
I mean, that's certainly a significant chunk of the kinds of materials that you would provide. And I think one critical point that you're making, Joanna, is that we also recommend and know, in fact, the kinds of experiences that PhD programs, for instance, would value if you were on that track.
Right.
And so I can tell you, too, in talking to UMSI faculty who are affiliated with the MADS program, that they also want to give MADS students the opportunity to do research. We don't have the fine details yet in how that will happen, but certainly we can assure you that we want that to happen, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that MADS students that indicate an interest in research have that opportunity.
And we can help make those connections even more deeply with some of those faculty as well.
That's wonderful. And I think this point of connectivity is also really critical in thinking about how you might work towards applying your data science skills in projects, for example. So we talked a little bit earlier about projects, knowing that those opportunities can manifest themselves using the connections that the CDO office has, or CDO has. And I should add that some of our students are interested, for example, in availing themselves to those projects, not only because they're data science related, but also because they have a specific purpose. So for instance, we have some folks that have indicated that they would like to put their data science skills to work in nonprofits. Can you talk a little bit about how we work with employers across domains, or how we kind of support projects across different fields of data science?
Yeah, so our employer base is vast and diverse, and in looking at the data science sort of demand, it's across all industries. So often when students come to us and the first question is, where could I get a job or an internship? We say, well, let's start with where do you want to? What is your ideal company? Industry right now is, all industry is heavy data driven, and they need people with skills to make this happen. So our office, again, we have the connections to the employers across industry. We have the job postings, we have internship postings, but on top of that, we do get project requests that come in through our office, and those are sort of those unique, might not be a full-on traditional internship, but there's project opportunities that we know, particularly with like local organizations that we work closely with, that we can, again, help make those connections to say, here's a data project, here's students that we know that are seeking them. Through our Office of Professional and Community Engagement, they offer, they work with community around project opportunities all the time that might be sort of more volunteer focused, so they might not be for pay, but again, it's great work experience where they're looking for individuals or groups of students to work on a project over the course of a semester. It could be a week, it could be a day. So there's a lot of variance, there's a lot of project opportunities. I don't know if you have more to add to that.
The other thing I was thinking of is that we do work with Net Hope, which is a tech consortium of NGOs. And so that would be another thing that we could help connect you with some of those partners for different opportunities they might have. We see that nonprofits have a lot of data needs, and I would say depending on the size of the nonprofit organization, they may or may not already have a data team that's working on that. And so I would say this is also a space where you can pitch project ideas, you can reach out to nonprofits and indicate what your skill set is, what you would love to work on, why you might be interested in that specific organization and their mission, because oftentimes I find those organizations are very open to students reaching out and potentially working on a project with them.
And they don't necessarily have the capacity to be like posting these opportunities and putting it out there. It's, you have to be proactive. We can help you identify some of those organizations and help you, articulate a pitch, a project pitch to them. But I guarantee they're all, always looking for help. And so if you're offering that help, I'm sure they would take it if the capacity is there.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful suite of resources. And to complement what you're both saying, and as many of you who have joined us in previous webinars know, this is also one of the reasons that our faculty, for example, talk often about why we chose to name the degree the Applied Masters of Data Science. And so when we think about application, we think about it in many forms. And so some forms may be in professional development opportunities like internships, projects, consulting. Some of it may be in volunteering your data science skills to aid an organization that otherwise would not benefit from data science analysis. And often it might also be in a class, for example, where we know that our faculty are really committed to ensuring that our students have project-based learning opportunities generally, but more specifically within your domain of interest. So if, for example, you want to apply data science in the nonprofit sector, we're hoping that one or more of our milestone and capstone courses would give you an opportunity to do that. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And if I could just add to that, for those of you that might not have a lot of work experience, doing a personal project can be a huge way to stand out to employers. They value that when students are taking the initiative to find a public data repository and potentially see what interesting things you can find within that data. That would be something that would stand out on a resume, or if you did have a data science portfolio, as a way to show off work that you've done.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit after 12:45, so I want to welcome anyone that is just joining us. So as I indicated earlier, we had exclusive access for our conditionally admitted students and matriculated students for about 45 minutes, and now we have anyone that's expressed an interest in the Master of Applied Data Science program potentially joining us. My name is Amy. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Program Development in the School of Information and a member of the MADS team, and I have with me two esteemed colleagues from our Career Development Office who I'll just let introduce themselves once more in case we have any new folks, and then we'll delve right back into answering questions.
So hi, everyone that's new and just joining us. I'm Joanna Kroll. I'm the Director of the Career Development Office at the School of Information.
Hi, I'm Dunn, Assistant Director of Career Development, and I'll be serving as the primary career coach for MADS students.
So this is a question that I don't know if any of the three of us have the answer to, but
Try.
pose it.
Collectively,
We can figure it out together. So for those math students that are interested in attending a conference that is data science focused, for example, are there funding opportunities or ways in which we could support that kind of professional development? I think the school does have some conference funding.
Yes, absolutely.
Typically if presenting.
Okay, so that's good to know. So in an instance where, for example, you submitted a proposal and that proposal was accepted, there could be an opportunity to get funding from the school. However, we would also say that if this is a specific interest, offices like the one that I work in, the Office of Academic and Student Affairs, the Career Development Office, there are certainly professionals that would also be willing just to have a conversation about how do I get to this conference, right? And,
Absolutely.
and what are some of the mechanisms I can use, or what are the ways in which this conference may avail itself to students. So for instance, sometimes if you volunteer at a conference, you get free registration and lodging. And so that might be something we could explore, for example.
Absolutely. And just connecting, that would be another opportunity to connect with residential students as well. What conferences are they going to? What are the common professional organizations that they're involved in? And if you're not presenting, maybe it's going and learning about who might be going to some of these conferences together.
That's great. So on the one hand, you might make the argument that data science is everywhere, and on the other, we know that there are some fields or some areas in which we're seeing a lot of data science job opportunity. And so can you tell us in a little bit more depth, you've indicated to us who some of the employers are. Can you take that kind of one step out and tell us by kind of sector or field where you're seeing some of this data science interest and kind of job development happening?
Yeah, I would say finance is number one. We're definitely seeing that
Okay.
within finance and banking, and then the tech industry, consulting, in retail. Those tend to be kind of some of the top ones that we see. I don't know if you want to.
No, I would say those are definitely the top ones. Those are the ones where the jobs that are coming through, they hit those industries specifically. However, if those are industries you're not interested in, truly across the board, from healthcare to nonprofits to libraries to health and wellness, entertainment, media, social media, the opportunities are there. Smaller companies might not be there yet. They know they have the need, but they just don't know how to kind of develop data science and what those roles would look like quite yet. But I'd say the mid to large companies, definitely, they are clamoring. And we hear them say a lot to us, like, we can't find these unicorns. That's what they're referring to data science students as. And so we're helping make those connections. So we're thrilled that you're all going to be a part of MADS, and that we can present you to employers and help you connect with those employers so that their recruiting needs get met. But yeah, and Katie mentioned the top ones for sure are those four, with finance, tech, consulting, and retail.
Interesting.
E-commerce,
Yeah. So we're going to be producing lots of unicorns
Yes.
in MADS. And the good news is that the jobs are in high demand. So
Definitely.
that's wonderful to hear. At the same time, I'm also hearing you say, though, that in an instance where someone comes into the CDO and they say, I don't want to work in finance, it's just not, it's just not for me, that does not mean that there's not other opportunity, or the opportunity, or the way in which we can have a good conversation about what might it be, where are some of the less conventional places that data science is being exercised.
And we can help you find the opportunities, because we find places, for example, I was contacted by an alum today who works in government, and she's like, we need data science candidates for this job, and can you help us make that connection? And I'm like, great. So she sent me the job, and I'm reading it, and government can be a little antiquated sometimes with their job titles. And the job title is called like program manager. I'm like, you guys need, so it's like you have to look beyond job titles too with some industries. And so we're trying to work with employers to like make it clear in the job descriptions what the actual work is, because what does a program manager mean to data science? So there are some industries that don't quite have it yet, but we can help you in sort of interpreting the job titles and the job descriptions. And Katie will say over and over, like, read job descriptions thoroughly. You all should be doing that now. Whether you're committed to coming, you're just still, wondering about the program, start looking at job descriptions and reading those closely to get a sense of what that actually means, because it means different things across different industries in terms of the job titles.
No, that's really good advice, because you're right. Just because the job title is one thing doesn't mean in any way that the actual duties and responsibilities of the job nor the qualifications might be in fact something else entirely. So for the both of you, you spend a lot of time with students, a lot of time with alumni, a lot of time with employers. And so you have this very unique vantage point of getting feedback from each of these stakeholders around the nature of the world of work and what's happening in employment trends. So we've been centering our conversation on data science, rightly so. When students are thinking about ways in which to round out some of their skill sets, so they're going to have this really both broad and deep knowledge in data science. And because we work from end to end, they'll be able to do kind of any data science job that touches any end, either end of being a data scientist. So from beginning of the process of formulating questions, collecting data, scrubbing data, all the way through analyzing data, presenting data science results, so on and so forth. What are some of the other things that you're observing employers are telling you about what makes someone an attractive candidate for a position?
So it is all of that. It is those that are, the technical skills, the quantitative skills. Those are very, very important. But it means nothing if you don't have the rounded out skill set of being a strong collaborator, being a strong team player. Employers will often say, like, that's even more important because you can learn the other stuff. But if you're not a strong team player, like, collaboration is key. Being able to take initiative, being able to having strong communication skills, specifically around being persuasive, being able to negotiate, advocating for yourself and getting your point across. and creative problem solving. And so those, you know, and I don't even like calling them soft skills because I feel like that minimizes the value of them.
Right.
But it's those skills rounded out with all the other more technical skills that are going to make you incredibly valuable to any employer. So if you're not doing that, if you're working in an organization right now where you're not really working as much of a part of a team, you could think about what are things that I could be doing to like have more opportunities to work as part of a team. And I'm sure in the curriculum you're going to have group projects, and that's not just to drive you crazy.
Yes.
There's a reason for that,
That's
because you need to develop that skill set. You need to be able to tell employers that you've been successful working on a group and show evidence of that.
That's exactly right. So logistical question, when can MADS students start seeing you, Katie? And what's the process by which they schedule an appointment?
And so typically my appointments become available in September, right when fall term starts. And all appointment scheduling will happen within iTrack. You'll receive access to iTrack within the next 3 weeks. You'll receive an email inviting you to iTrack when we've created your account, and then you'll be able to go in and kind of peruse that, get used to it. You might start looking at the job or internship postings we have in there currently. And then when fall term starts, you'd be able to go in and schedule an appointment to meet with me. I believe we'll be sharing a document in the orientation materials that kind of goes step by step of how you would schedule that advising appointment. But it just takes a couple of clicks in iTrack to be able to do that.
Yeah, so to Katie's good point, part of the onboarding and orientation for those folks that matriculate into the MADS program, and that will open very quickly, very soon in fact, within the next week or so, will have access to information on how to schedule appointments within iTrack. We also have some more information contained within onboarding and orientation on the Career Development Office, and that same system is the system that folks will schedule academic advising appointments as well, so it's good to get to know it because it's really the major mechanism through which you'll have the opportunity to sign up for one-on-one appointments. So thank you for that. So as we start to conclude, I am curious if you could talk a little bit more about why UMSI MADS program. So both of you have worked in the School of Information for several years. You know the school really well. You know the people that come here to get their degrees and then go off representing the School of Information as alumni. Tell me a little bit about what it means to you to be part of launching another program in UMSI and why folks should come and join us. Remotely, that is, since we're an online program.
So I'll kick it off as the veteran. So I had been very fortunate to, my entire career at the University of Michigan has been at the School of Information. And so we're going on 20 years now. And there's reasons why I've stayed here. And UMSI is special, it's unique. I think what keeps us here is that we're always moving forward. It's always, we're always cutting edge, forward progress. We're sort of always thinking about innovative ways that we are offering, that's curricular based, co-curricular. With our office, we're always thinking about innovative ways for engagement with students, for employers, and we're fully supported in that. Our student body, you all are the reason why we stay. The diversity of our student body, the interdisciplinary approach to the curriculum, students' interests, what everyone is bringing in. Everyone's so unique and different. No student is ever the same. No day is ever the same. Same goes with our employers. We're working with really diverse employers across the world, and so it's exciting. And nothing is ever like, every day is different. Nothing's ever that sort of cookie cutter. We know what to expect, and that's fun. And I think that keeps us on our toes and challenged. And the students are why we're here, and you all make it so fulfilling for us to stay in our positions in a field of career services, which can feel really stressful. We get it. You're all like, I'm investing a lot. I need to make sure I have a job at the end of that. We take that seriously. 100% of our jobs are to ensure that you all are getting jobs, advancement, career shift. You're getting, what your worth is out there in the world. And so we're here for you, and we love that.
Yeah. I would just add, so I've been at SI for about 6 years now, and I think one of the things I really value about SI and the community and the students is that we all want to try something new, right? Our degree programs are always leading the charge in areas that might be brand new. We're preparing students for careers that might not always exist right now. And I think for you all to be interested in the brand new MADS program that speaks to the interest you have, and really being forward thinking and looking at this new area of data science and how that could be a very successful career path for yourself. And so I think I always have a lot of value in learning from students and their interests, but always knowing that our students are really seeking out these brand new, different types of opportunities that are just exciting to learn about and be able to see the success then that students have once they graduate and go into their careers.
Those are really inspirational words, and I certainly think sitting here listening to you, highly motivating in so much as making a decision about coming here, or for those of you that are already coming here, how enthused we are that you are going to be joining us. So for those of you that had questions today that weren't related to our career development office, please do know that we're deeply invested in answering those questions. I will say that right now in particular, our response time is a bit delayed, just given the volume of questions that we've been getting and answering. So I do apologize for that. Please keep trying. I promise you that we will get to answering everyone's questions that submit them. Our email address again is umsi.mads@umich.edu. Please use it. If it's not a question that we can answer, certainly it's something that we can forward to colleagues in an instance where they have the expertise and they will answer it. Thank you so much for joining us today. This webinar, like all of ours, will be available in shortly online to access in the future, and otherwise we very much looking to having you join us in the University of Michigan School of Information. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
So we're one of the top universities in the world. We're one of the top 2 public universities in the United States. This is the full Block M. You're getting the full deal here. And the only difference is you won't necessarily be able to go to all 7 home football games. Graduates of this degree are fully vested members of our alumni community, removing the constraint of having to travel and live in Ann Arbor. It's just not practical for a vast population of potential students, but still being able to benefit from that world-class expertise is an incredible thing.
I think that what's exciting about data science right now is that it can be used across sectors. So whether you are interested in healthcare or education or work with Silicon Valley companies, all of those areas can be informed by data. And that's part of why when we're dealing with high stakes areas like healthcare and education, that ethical use of data becomes so important, and our care to make sure that we aren't biased is important.
Hello, Chuck here. We're in Milan, Italy. Hello, Chuck here. We are here in Paris, France. Well, hello. We are at Bletchley Park. Here we are in Orlando. Here we are in
So my name is Charles Severance. I am a clinical professor at the University of Michigan School of Information. I am now, by far, the most dominant Python class in the whole world, touching over 2 million lives. And you might say, why is that? Well, I claim it's because of the assessments. If you end up doing my homework for 2 hours, you're doing the job you're supposed to eventually do. I mean, my homework is job-ready skills, right? I mean, I don't have homework that is a waste of time just so I can make it hard for you. So I hope that when you participate in this new master's online degree, that you are as excited as I am. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm excited to see something that I consider completely next generation in terms of approach to teaching. So I really hope that someday we meet and someday you can tell me what you think of this particular experience and to see if you saw it as wonderful as I believe that it's going to be. Go Blue.
The MADS program provides the rigorous and innovative curriculum to all the students who are interested in becoming an applied data scientist. You will leave here with the portfolio that proves that you can do end-to-end applied data science, and you can apply these techniques you have learned to real-world problems. And we're super excited to meet with you, to work with you, and to collaborate with you. Go Blue!